Let the doors be open, que l'on ouvre les portes. State order. Alors.
Order.
Statements by members. Déclaration de députés.
The Honourable Member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate the team of Saint-Lefort in Sainte-Clotilde for the announcement of an investment of $27 million, which will create 60 jobs and which will make that company the largest producer of organic greenhouse vegetables in North America. Châteauguay-Lacolle is already Quebec's #1 producing region for the market industry, and now the standards are even higher. The company obtained an investment of $5 million from the FTQ fund, a loan of $7.5 million, and a loan guarantee of $11.9 million from the Quebec government. The Saint-Lefort also received an award during the 4th Gala of the Agri-Stars in Montérégie for having hired a human resource advisor who developed working tools to facilitate the search for information and improve the management of the labor force. Thank you.
Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, on April 4th, voters in Saskatchewan spoke loud and clear. They elected a provincial government that supports resource development, that speaks with pride about Saskatchewan's and Canada's oil and gas industry, and that recognizes that international trade is crucial for Saskatchewan's economic growth. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Saskatchewan Party and their leader, Premier Brad Wall, for garnering 62.6% support on their way to capturing a third straight majority government. And I would like to wish our Premier and the re-elected government all the best as they continue to provide strong leadership to our province over the next 4 years. The government and the people of Saskatchewan can count on our Conservative caucus to be a champion for the values they hold dear.
The Honourable Member for Fredericton.
I rise to celebrate the life of Tony Berry. Affectionately known as Mother Superior of the New Brunswick Liberal Party, Tony passed away on April 3rd at the age of 91. Tony joined the New Brunswick Liberal Association in 1954 and quickly became a party fixture. She spent nearly 70 years leading, organizing, and advising party activities, working closely with 6 prime ministers, 6 premiers, and 17 party leaders. Tony was fiercely committed to increasing women's representation in politics. The Tony Berry Fund assists women seeking election, and party headquarters in Fredericton is known as Tony Berry House. An accomplished athlete as well, she entered the New Brunswick Softball Hall of Fame in 2013. Her passion and dedication to community are surpassed only by the love and care she offered to family and friends. We extend our thoughts to Kathy, Judy, Mike, Rick, and her entire family. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Esquimalt, Saanich-Sooke.
Mr. Speaker, today marks the Day of Pink, a day to raise awareness about bullying and a day to stand up to call for an end to bullying. New Democrats wear pink today to stand collectively with the victims to say no to homophobia, transphobia, racism, sexism, classism, ableism, and all forms of discrimination that provide tools and targets for bullies. Bullying in all its forms has a detrimental impact not just on its victims, but on our society as a whole. We have all heard the stories and seen the statistics that show increasing rates of youth self-harm and suicide. Studies have concluded that bullying is not a behavior that bullies outgrow, but rather is a behavior that matures into more serious issues of harassment and abuse. Bullying can be stopped. It is not simply a part of growing up. We need to get to the root of the problem of bullying and work to put an end to the cycle of bullying. The New Democrat team is committed to taking action on the issue of bullying in Parliament, not only today, but every day, and doing so in ways that actually get results.
The Honourable Member from Mississauga-Straitsville.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to celebrate the Harvest Festival of HoC, specifically the festival which celebrates the founding of the Sikh community, known as the Khalsa. The fundamental beliefs of Sikhism include faith and meditation, unity and equality of all humankind, engaging in selfless service, striving for social justice, and conducting oneself honestly. Mr. Speaker, I was also very happy to hear our Prime Minister announce that the Government of Canada will be apologizing for the Kamagata-Maru incident. So, Mr. Speaker, today I not only rise to celebrate Vaisakhi, but I rise to celebrate Canada, a country which the Sikh community has called home for over 100 years, a country in which the son of a Sikh immigrant can stand as an MP opposite a defense minister that wears a turban, a country in which the Prime Minister believes is strong not only in spite of our differences, but because of them.
The honourable member for Calgary-Shepherd.
I stand today to commemorate the Day of Remembrance for the victims of the Katyn massacres. The Katyn massacres took place in April of 1942 during the Soviet Union's continued occupation of Poland, when over 20,000 Polish officers were brutally murdered by the Soviet Red Army, while being held as prisoners of war under the full protection of the Geneva Conventions. As if these terrible crimes were not enough, the Soviet government attempted to place the blame on the Nazi regime, and only finally admitted their involvement in 1990. They have never issued an apology to the families and nations shocked and wounded by these terrible events that occurred in the Katyn forest near Smolensk. As a Polish immigrant to Canada, I know the horrific impact the Soviet Union's invasion and occupation had on Poland. The events of April 1942 are forever seared into the hearts and minds of the Polish people and those of Polish heritage. Today I stand in remembrance of the victims of Katyn and of the terrible crimes committed by the Soviet Union.
The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, the 2595 Saint Jean Cadet Corps is celebrating its 60th anniversary this year. It was founded in 1956, and over 3,000 young people between the ages of 12 and 18 have been part of it. 2595 has become the largest cadet corps in the Army in the Montérégie region. It is with great dedication that Major Latendresse and team allow some 120 cadets per year to broaden their knowledge of Canada and acquire skills that are essential to helping them lead a better life and affront with optimism the labour market. The commitment of those involved has given the opportunity to many young people from all backgrounds to be part of an environment that is stimulating, friendly, and safe. Thanks to its solid values, this institution encourages young people to surpass themselves.
Member for Don Valley North.
Mr. Speaker, the Bayview Village Association in my riding of Don Valley North is celebrating 6 years of service. It has always punched above its weight. The association has worked tirelessly to preserve the village's sense of a community of service. And 50% of residents are members of the association. When they speak with one voice, all three levels of government listen. Members know that a community is not just a collection of houses. Since 1956, they have protected the villages of high quality of life. I congratulate the President, Tim Storrs, Jody Cott, John Kane, Jane Skigel, and all Bayview Village Association members for always putting community first. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, it is high time that the Liberals finally keep their promise and look after the Navy and the Coast Guard. According to an independent report secretly submitted to Transport Canada over 4 months ago, the fleet of the Coast Guard is aging, maintenance costs are exploding, and it is urgent to replace the oldest ships. Maritime traffic is increasing, whereas the icebreaker services in the Arctic are decreasing. Is there a problem with the interpretation? Can people hear? Is it working now? So I would ask the Honourable Member to recommence, please. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to remind you that it is high time that the Liberals look after the Royal Canadian Navy and the Coast Guard. Why? Because an independent report was secretly submitted to Transport Canada over 4 months ago, and apparently the fleet is aging. Maritime traffic in the Arctic is increasing, whereas the hours of the icebreakers are decreasing. During the campaign, the Liberals promised to strengthen the Navy and create jobs, and it is time to do so because instead of poo-pooing valid proposals, they must now seriously assess bids that would allow them to purchase competitive ships at a competitive price built here in Canada by Canadians while respecting the national procurement strategy. Mr. Speaker, instead of plunging future generations into debt with the excessive spending, when will the government finally respond to the urgent needs of the Navy and the Coast Guard by creating real jobs here in Canada?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Vaisakhi, the Spring Harvest Festival celebrated across South Asia and the world. Vaisakhi is particularly significant to Sikh Canadians as it marks the anniversary, the inauguration of the Khalsa and the fundamental principles of Sikhism by the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji. The word Khalsa translates to the free, the pure, the genuine. Vaisakhi is a celebration of freedom and the principle that each of us should have access to same opportunities and same resources, regardless of the family that we're born into, whether we're male or female, and independent of our race or our skin color. Sikhism teaches that we're all responsible for seeking unity, equality, justice, and prosperity for all of humankind. It teaches us that it is our duty to give back to the society through a selfless service called seva. Opportunity, equality, and liberty. These are values that we all share as Canadians, and I encourage all Canadians to celebrate these values today. On behalf of all Sikh MPs in the
The member for Winnipeg North.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, across Canada, members of the Sikh faith and others will be participating in Vaisakhi, a celebration that highlights Guru Gobind Singh, who laid down the foundation of the Khalsa path. My feelings and passion for what Sikhism stands for has inspired me from when I first attended a Gurdwara back in 1988. In 1999, as a member of the Manitoba Legislative Assembly, I had the privilege of introducing a resolution that recognized the importance of the Khalsa. That resolution passed unanimously. 2 days ago, on April 11th, we witnessed history when we recited from the Guru Granth Sahib here in Canada's Parliament building. In addition to that special moment, the Prime Minister indicated that there was going to be a formal apology regarding the Kamagata-Maru here in Parliament. The Kamagata-Maru was a racial incident that occurred in 1914 where people of Punjabi heritage were denied access to Canada as they sat in a ship that was built to transport coal. On May 18, we will hear that apology. Happy Vaisakhi to one and all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Simcoe Grey.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to speak today about Daffodil Month. This is the Canadian Cancer Society's month to raise funds in support of fellow Canadians who have lived with cancer. Currently, 2 in 5 Canadians will develop some form of cancer. For my family that was impacted, my mother passed away in 1989 of breast cancer, and my grandfather in 1981 of esophageal cancer. Many of us here are impacted by an individual in our family that has suffered from cancer. My family knows firsthand the value of the Canadian Cancer Society. When you buy a daffodil pin and wear it in April, you're showing your support of Canadians living with cancer. It's a symbol of strength and courage in the fight against this disease. I ask all of you here today, and for the rest of April, to please wear your daffodil pin, as I will, in support of all of these Canadians and their families dealing with this challenging disease called cancer.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, today is the International Day of Pink. Canadians from coast to coast to coast are united in raising awareness against all types of bullying and heinous acts of intolerance.
In a country like Canada that stands out thanks to its diversity and humanity, there is no place for hate, violence, or intolerance against those who avail themselves of their rights and to express their religious, sexual, cultural, and gender identity.
For individuals such as Degas Sikorsky, who received a horrifying and cruel Valentine's Day card containing homophobic slurs at his workplace. Today, we in this House stand, dressed in pink, with all Canadians to say to victims such as Degas and everyone else, enough with hatred, enough with bullying. Today, you take ownership and pride in your identity. As our Prime Minister once wrote, your friends outnumber the haters by the millions, and we are among those friends. Happy Day of Pink to all.
The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
It's only fitting on Audrey O'Brien Day that all of us remember April is Pay Equity Month, Mr. Speaker, because April 17th is the day that for too many women, their wages finally catch up to those earned by men in the previous calendar year. It's shameful. Women in Canada on average earn only 74 cents for every dollar a man earns, despite doing similar and equal work. You may recall, Mr. Speaker, that on February the 2nd, the NDP introduced a motion to implement pay equity. It was passed with support from this Liberal government, and I'm proud of the work of my caucus in advancing women's equity. Sadly, Mr. Speaker, the same Liberal government that supported our motion introduced a budget that did little to nothing in the way of actually working to achieve pay equity for Canadian women. The Prime Minister calls himself a feminist, Mr. Speaker. I would like to be encouraged by his sunny ways, but actions speak louder than words. I encourage this government to honour its promises, to back them up with real substantive action that will provide...
The honourable member for Markham Unionville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I rise today to express my best wishes to everyone in Canada and abroad celebrating Vaisakhi. On one of the most important days for members of the Sikh faith, we honor the creation of the Khalsa by spending quality time with family and friends. Sikhs and non-Sikhs alike also participate in vibrant parades and celebrations, and I am grateful I got to attend Khalsa Day Kirtan here on Parliament Hill. Mr. Speaker, this is also a perfect day to honor the significant contribution that Sikhs have made to our great country. I wish everyone a safe and joyful holiday. Happy Vaisakhi. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
The honourable member for Oakville.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the beginning of Daffodil Month 2016. Every April, thanks to the Canadian Cancer Society, Canadians come together to raise awareness about cancer by wearing daffodil pins. In 1938, the Canadian Cancer Society began its fight to create a world where no Canadians fear cancer. Since then, the charity has funded over $1.2 billion in cancer research. They have provided life-changing cancer information, as well as peer support, rise to cancer treatment, and prevention programs. If all of us have been touched negatively by cancer, then almost all of us have been touched positively by this society. When you wear your daffodil pin, it's a symbol of strength and courage in the fight against cancer. It shows our collective determination to one day defeat this disease. So please help the Canadian Cancer Society do more by joining the fight this April. Thank you.
Oral questions, questions orales. Honorable Chef de l'Opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
First off, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say how thrilled we all are to see the clerk back at her desk. Mr. Speaker, Audrey O'Brien has had an exceptional career. She's served this Parliament, she has served her country, and she has served all of us. So on behalf of everyone here, I'd like to pay tribute to a remarkable woman. Thank you. On with questions. question period. Mr. Speaker, Canadians understand that pipelines are the safest way to move our oil and gas to market. And while our government approved the Northern Gateway Pipeline, immediately after the election, the Liberals killed it by slapping a transportation ban off the West Coast. If the Prime Minister is willing to kill a pipeline project after it's already approved, how can we have confidence he won't do the same thing to the Trans Mountain and the Energy East pipelines?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me also to add my voice to the many, many voices in this House who honour Audrey O'Brien for extraordinary service, not just to members in this House and to this august place, but to all of Canada through an extraordinary life of service. Thank you very much. And in the 5 seconds remaining to me, Mr. Speaker, let me say that this government understands that environment and economy go together, must go together, something that the previous government simply did not understand, and which is why they were unable to build pipelines to Tidewater through 10 years of trying to do nothing but. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Position.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' failure to support Canada's energy sector is damaging the country, and it has real consequences. Thousands of jobs are being lost, families are losing their homes, and the communities are devastated. Well, all these families and communities need to hear is a clear message from the Prime Minister that he actually supports new pipelines. Will the Prime Minister finally assure all of us that if the National Energy Board approves Trans Mountain and Energy East, he will also approve them?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I have long pointed out that one of the fundamental responsibilities of any Canadian Prime Minister is to get our resources to market. And in the 21st century, getting our resources to market means doing it sustainably, responsibly, and with community buy-in and Aboriginal support, Indigenous support. The fact is, the previous government did not understand that, was unable to build the public trust necessary to help Alberta's industry and indeed the jobs that need to be created through it, and therefore failed the province they worked so hard to try and represent.
Rival Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, since taking office, the Liberals have completely failed to support Canada's energy sector. While the U.S. has ramped up their oil exports, while at the same time blocking Canada's oil exports, the Prime Minister has done nothing about it. His principal secretary says oil and gas development is as bad as hooking kids on cigarettes. And his environment minister says that we need to move in the direction of seizing all development in the industry. In his ideological quest to make Canada free of fossil fuels, is the Prime Minister willing to take responsibility for the hundreds of thousands of jobs that will be lost?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, I find it mildly humorous that the opposition is taking us to task for being unable to do in 5 months what they were unable to do in 10 years. The fact of the matter is the initiatives taken by the previous government did not help the Alberta oil industry, did not help Albertans, did not help the workers who are now out of work. What we need is a government that actually restores public confidence and gets our resources to market in responsible, sustainable ways. That's why Canadians elected us. That's what we're going to work very hard to do.
Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister wants to talk about the past, but this week we had an announcement of $70 million less in the oil industry. So we need to think about our oil security. There are a lot of questions relating to the budget. The parliamentary budget officer had said that there were documents and figures that were needed to look at long-term growth. So why weren't those figures provided? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Well, the Governor of the Bank of Canada has confirmed today that the action we took in our budget will have a positive impact on Canada's economic growth, a positive impact on families, and that's what we promised during the election campaign. For 10 years, we had a government that refused to invest in Canadians, and this is what we are doing. It's time to do that. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, of course, I don't agree with the Prime Minister. We invested a great deal, but we managed to balance our budget It's unfortunate, but we now know that the record of the Liberals when it comes to employment is very poor. They exaggerated the figures in many ways in their budget. So Canadians want to know why the Liberals exaggerated the number of jobs that would be created in the economy. The Right Honourable Prime Minister, during the election campaign, especially afterwards when we introduced our budget to help the middle class, we showed that we knew how to create growth. It is by investing in our communities, by putting more money in the pockets of the middle class and those that want to reach the middle class. That's the way to do it. For 10 years, the Conservatives weren't there for Canadians. We are creating jobs, and this is what we were doing with the budget. Right Honourable, the member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, Catherine and I want to welcome back the clerk, Audrey O'Brien, here to the House.
Mr. Speaker, it turns out there's a slight problem in the paperwork for the Saudi arms deal. Maybe the government could help us figure it out, because, you see, for months they've been telling us that it was a done deal under the Conservatives. Now it turns out that what to the untrained eye looks like the signature of the Minister of Global Affairs approved it actually on April 8th, just a few days ago. Maybe they could explain that one to Canadians. Why have they misled Canadians about the Saudi arm deal?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I will say today what I have been saying every time anyone asks me about this, including during the election campaign. We will honour the contracts signed by Canada in February of 2014. The fact is, there are jobs in London relying on this. There is commitments made to the world that we will honour our good name when we sign our contracts. The fact is, even the member from Outremont understands that you cannot cancel a contract retroactively. He said, you don't cancel a commercial accord retroactively. It's just not done. On that, we agree with the member from Outremont.
The member from Outremont.
Our good name includes standing to defend human rights around the world, Mr. Speaker. And the situation in Saudi Arabia has only gotten worse, and he knows it. But
let's talk about paperwork. During the election campaign, the Prime Minister said that a lot of small businesses will be helped by paying less tax. How much tax was avoided by these 4 investment companies? We worked with professionally. I registered these companies and I paid all the tax that was required. But I've always said the government needs to encourage small businesses that create jobs, and this is what we have done in Budget 2016.
So,
the honourable member.
Businesses were just a way for rich people to avoid taxes. He knew of what he spoke.
Perhaps the Prime Minister could answer this question, Mr. Speaker. How is it that on October 20th, that is the day after the election, he chose that moment to dismantle one of those investment companies? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, when I ran for leader of the Liberal Party, I showed great openness and transparency with respect to my assets, my financial situation, and I have always shown that openness and transparency. I will continue to do that. The open and transparent approach by this government, especially after Canadians saw so little of it for years, is something that Canadians appreciate.
Bateau Panama avec ça?
So, Panama boat hat?
His financial arrangements, it turns out he left a few things out of the picture. You see, the Prime Minister failed to disclose all of the companies that he used to shelter his investments. Why didn't the Prime Minister tell Canadians about all of these companies he was using to shelter his investments and avoid paying his full share of taxes.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that every step of the way I have been open and transparent about my own personal finances, about my own holdings. Indeed, I raised the bar on transparency and openness in a way that the members opposite simply never did. I stand by my disclosures, by openness, and continue to challenge members on the opposite side of the House to reach the level of openness and transparency that on this side of the House we have always demonstrated.
Honourable member for Red Deer Lacombe.
It's hard to keep a straight face, Mr. Speaker. Last week we learned the Justice Minister attended a high-priced pay-to-play fundraiser in Toronto with Bay Street lawyers. Now it seems she's outdone herself. She's headlining a $1,000 per head fundraiser later this month. Copying the Win Liberals, this government is creating a whole new scheme of paying for access to cabinet ministers. So can the Justice Minister tell us how many lawyers and lobbyists will be attending her latest pay-to-play Liberal fundraiser? Good question.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite should be ashamed to raise an issue.
Just a minute. Colleagues, I remind members, of course, members I know are all mindful of the fact that it's anti-bullying day and they're going to want to act accordingly. Okay, enough. On all sides, we're going to act accordingly, and we're going to listen to the answers. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps the member who just asked the question should talk to his colleague from St. Albert, Edmonton, who in fact wrote a letter to the Ethics Commissioner with many of the same frivolous allegations and received a 3-page letter from the Ethics Commissioner dated April 13th. And the paragraph, Mr. Speaker, which I know everyone wants to hear, reads as follows, and I quote, "Based on the information available in the case, the fundraising involved the Minister of Justice, Section 16...
The Honourable Member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's hard for Canadians to trust the Justice Minister to do her job with all of her dodgy fundraising activities. It's been 6 months. She hasn't introduced a single piece of legislation. Her husband has registered to lobby her own department, and miraculously in the budget, the organization he lobbied for got $20 million. She's been caught giving access to high-priced lawyers and lobbyists. So can the Prime Minister stop hiding behind his House Leader and tell Canadians that this is the standard that he set for his own cabinet ministers?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the only person who's hiding appears to be the member who just asked that question. He knows very well, in a series of fabricated allegations which his colleague sent to the Ethics Commissioner, today the Ethics Commissioner confirmed that those allegations have no merit and no basis. Why can't he be satisfied with the independent opinion of the Ethics Commissioner that this House asked to look into these kind of matters? I have more faith in her judgment, Mr. Speaker, than his.
The member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, while the Minister of Justice attends pay-to-play fundraisers, the Minister has been AWOL in fulfilling her responsibilities as Minister. After nearly 6 months, the Minister is yet to make a judicial appointment, creating a situation that the Chief Justice of Alberta has called desperate. So, when will the Minister of Justice stop attending pay-to-play fundraisers and start appointing desperately needed judges, or is the Minister taking applications at the fundraisers?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I think what Canadians are wondering is when will that member tone down the feigned indignation, especially given the fact, Mr. Speaker, that he got a 3-page precise answer in writing from the Ethics Commissioner, which concluded that the fake complaint he made had no merit. But, Mr. Speaker, the members opposite love to table documents in the House. They should stay tuned. Maybe after question period, I'll ask for consent to table the letter the Ethics Commissioner sent to that
member. The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Justice, in attending the Pay to Play fundraiser with select lawyers and lobbyists, has compromised her independence, brought the office that she holds into disrepute, and breached ethical standards to which the minister is bound by. So will the minister stop the excuses and return the pay-to-play cash?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, let me try this again. That particular member made up a series of fake allegations, uses parliamentary immunity to make a whole series of allegations that he doesn't have the guts to go 25 meters out and say in front of a television camera. So then what he does is he writes a letter to the Independent Ethics Commissioner with all of these fake allegations, and she writes back to him and says, at all times the minister followed the act and her responsibilities under the code. He should be ashamed to keep asking those ridiculous questions.
Members should be keeping in mind that there's going to be partisan comments on both sides. It's supposed to be a place of strong disagreement sometimes. That's okay. It doesn't mean we can't listen to answers even if we don't like them, or questions for that matter. Let's hear one from the honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Yes. Well, let's just get to the bottom of this. The minister keeps evading questions about the pay-to-play Liberal fundraiser. She apparently can't speak on this issue or won't. Simply put, who planned this fundraiser? There's been a number of ethical issues with this minister ever since she took over this position. Did she plan these unfortunate events, or is she being set up by her closest to her?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, again, she may want to ask her colleague from St. Albert. The second last paragraph on page 3 of the letter that the Ethics Commissioner sent him makes clear that it's entirely appropriate for all members, including parliamentary secretaries and ministers, to solicit funds. She knows there's no scandal here. She's trying to fabricate something, and we look forward, perhaps, to the next fake allegation that'll follow in the next question.
Member for Lévis-le-Binière. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Justice is telling us that she went to the Toronto fundraising cocktail party to discuss issues concerning her riding, Vancouver-Granville. Yesterday, the government leader told us that the minister consulted the ethics commissioner, but in fact, this is a double standard because she can't be just a member and not the minister. Can the minister make public the list of participants that were so interested in meeting with the member for Vancouver-Granville? Mr. Speaker, if my colleague for Lévis had taken the time to read the Elections Act, he would know that things have to be proactively disclosed, and there was nothing secret about this cocktail party, unlike what was done by their colleague who is now in prison.
Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, far too many First Nation and Métis children are growing up in this country without any hope for their future. Far too many families, including my own, have been affected by suicides. Just this past weekend, there were more suicide attempts in La Loge. This is a crisis that demands action, not visits, not photo ops, action. Yet the budget contained no new funding for mental health services. When are we going to see a concrete plan from this government on mental health?
For Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, permit me to begin my comments by reflecting on last evening when there was a very lovely and civil tone in this House when we discussed a matter that was both sobering and inspiring, when we talked about the fact that in this country, in this wonderful, affluent, resourceful country, young people are deciding that life isn't worth living and that we haven't been able to find solutions to give them hope for the future. Mr. Speaker, I will continue to work with my colleague and all colleagues in this House to make sure that the mental health resources are there for young people and all Canadians when they need them.
The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank all my colleagues who participated in that debate last night. This may be a transformative moment, but the youth need action. Now, first off, there's a need for a family doctor in Attawapiskat. It's a simple request. Help us with that. Second, there is no new mental health funding for the communities. We need that. But third, I'd like to ask the Minister of Indigenous Affairs to commit today to funding to empower Indigenous youth so that they could start to look at how we can change programs, because after 140 years of failure and negligence and trauma, it's time that we said the youth will lead the way for the future.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
I thank the member for the question, but I also thank him for his eloquence and passion last evening in discussing this. And his ongoing commitment. No one knows the children and the youth in that community better than the member opposite, and we will work with the member. And we're heartened by what the mental health counsellors have decided to do, opening the centre, developing a youth council in that community, giving them ownership over the decisions that will be taken in their lives. And I look forward to working with the member on these things.
Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, can provide a secure and sustainable supply of LNG to the world. The Liberals' 3-month delay for BC's Pacific Northwest LNG project sets Canada back, while our global competitors gain ground on long-term contracts with Asian markets. Thousands of jobs are on the line. Billions of dollars in investment, royalties, and taxes are at stake. The PM should fight for Canada. Is he really going to sit back and let this opportunity slip away?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know that the only way to get resources to market is to make sure we do it in a sustainable way. We have a regulatory process. The project that the member opposite is referring to is going through that regulatory process. The proponent brought significant new information that would have potential impact on salmon. So we need to do our due diligence and make sure that we get this right before we can make a decision for a project as to whether a project goes ahead or not.
Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Pacific Northwest LNG project has gone through an extensive approval process to date. What was first expected to take a year has now taken more than 750 days. Despite diligent community consultations and support from most First Nations, the Liberals have added more barriers and costs at the worst time. Canada deserves this opportunity. Absolutely. Why won't the Liberals support private sector job creation and responsible resource development so Canada doesn't miss out?
Good question. Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What Canadians deserve is an environmental assessment process that they can trust. That is what we have committed to doing. This project is being reviewed. The proponent has brought significant new information. We received 34,000 comments, and we're going to do the proper job to make sure that we are making decisions based on facts and evidence, because that is the only way we will get our resource to market in a sustainable way.
The member for Caribou, Prince George.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the evidence is that there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of jobs that are lost right now and hanging in the balance. Mr. Speaker, the Pacific Northwest LNG project would be the biggest private sector investment in British Columbia history. Billions in investment, thousands of well-paying jobs are hanging in the balance. Yet the only thing this environment minister will approve is a decision to delay the decision. How can we expect the Liberals to be impartial when the Prime Minister's own Parliament or Principal Secretary said he wants to shut down oil and gas development?
The Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said previously, we are committed to making sure that the environment and the economy go together, but that needs to be done in a responsible way. We will make decisions based on facts and evidence. We're working very closely with the proponent and with the government of British Columbia. And I quote Rich Coleman, Minister of BC Natural Gas Development, "We are confident that working together with the federal government and the company, any remaining questions can be fully resolved expeditiously." Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Residents and small businesses in my riding are struggling right now due to low energy prices. Liberals have an opportunity to support our economy, and that opportunity is BC LNG. The fact is, residents have now formed community action groups like Fort St. John for LNG and are working tirelessly to ensure the voices of yes are being heard. I'll ask it again of the Minister. When will the Liberals stop ignoring our communities and come to a final decision on projects like Pacific Northwest LNG?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, we will make a decision when we have the facts and the evidence necessary to do so. We have committed to an environmental assessment process that has the confidence of Canadians. We will make decisions based on facts and evidence. We are working with the proponent. We are working with the BC government to get the information we need to do just that.
The honourable member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie.
People said they were going to be different, but now they're becoming just what exactly they oppose. The Foreign Affairs Minister claimed that he had no choice when it came to the conservative arms deal with Saudi Arabia. He told us that it was a done deal, but that was not the case. He approved the deal himself last Friday. Mr. Speaker, this is about human rights. So why are Canadians being misled on such an important issue?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
With all due respect, Mr. Speaker, as my colleague was confusing two different decisions. The first one is to honor the signature of a contract. This has been a contract signed in 2014, and her party and our party and the Conservative Party committed the next election to honor the signature. The second one is about the export permits. I have the power to allow the export permit or to revoke them according to the behavior of the country regarding human rights on the use of the equipment. And the equipment has been not misused since 1993. It's why for now
The honourable member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. I don't understand, Mr. Speaker. What's the point of having assessment processes for arms exports if it's a done deal before the process even takes place? When it comes to the sale of arms to Saudi Arabia, the Minister and the Prime Minister told Canadians on many occasions that they could do nothing, that their hands were tied. But now we find out that the Minister authorized the sale last Friday. I'm saying he authorized it last Friday himself. Why did he deliberately mislead Canadians? And why is the Minister trying to hoodwink Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, if that's the NDP position, that we should not respect the signature of the Canadian government, I hope they'll take this to London, because I hope the member for London Fanshawe tells them to do this. We will agree with this according to the use of the equipment, but as long as the equipment does not violate human rights, when the use of the weapons is within the interests of Canada, Foreign Affairs will honour the export permits. If that's not the case, I will change my decision, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Saint-Boniface, Saint-Vital. Mr. Speaker, we know that the vast majority of middle-class Canadians pay their fair share of taxes, but certain wealthy individuals hide their money in foreign tax havens to avoid paying taxes. On Monday, the government made a commitment to be tougher on tax evasion and tax avoidance. Can the Minister of National Revenue shed light on the methods implemented to truly change things? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's quite clear that the situation presented by my colleague from St. Boniface is neither fair nor acceptable. Indeed, things must change. On Monday, I announced historic investments, $444.4 million. As I intend to explain at the Finance Committee, these tools will allow for improvement in detection, investigation, and audits, and will also allow us to sue when those who engage in tax evasion are caught, as well as organizations that create these strategies. The loopholes will be closed.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals love to make promises to Canadians, only to turn around and change their minds. Instead of encouraging jobs and hiring, the Liberals have increased payroll taxes and EI premiums for small businesses. This doesn't just affect small business owners, but also the millions of Canadians who work for them. When will the Liberals stop killing jobs with higher taxes?
Honourable Minister of Small Business and Tourism.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Speaker. Once again, we have lowered taxes on small businesses. We have lowered taxes on middle-class Canadians. We are working with Canadians to ensure that we have a strong economy and that we create jobs. Budget 2016, which I encourage the member to read in its entirety, makes many investments, including $11.9 billion in infrastructure spending, which will help small businesses. $500 million for broadband in rural and remote areas. And I see your hand is waving, so I will stop, but the list goes on. And the time is up. But I thank you for the opportunity to stand and tell you how we're working with small businesses.
I guess I'd better help members by letting them know that when I start doing that, it means I have the 10 seconds and counting, okay? So let's keep that in mind. The honourable member for Richmond Centre.
Mr. Speaker, one thing is very clear. Liberals think borrowed money will somehow magically create jobs.
They do.
Small businesses understand that jobs come from hard work and responsible spending. Right. Canadian Federation of Independent Business President Dan Kelly said, small business owners know that today's deficits are tomorrow's taxes.
Exactly.
Why are the Liberals taxing job creators to pay for their reckless spending?
The Honourable Minister of Small Business and Tourism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the question once again. And what I've said in this House before is saying it does not make it true. Let's look at the facts, Mr. Speaker. We are working with small business Canadians. We are working with the Small Business Matters Coalition. We are working with stakeholders. There are 3.2 million Canadians that we are representing in this side of the House. And we are working with the Canadian independent businesses and Dan Kelly himself. I have met with him and I will continue to work with him. We will continue to represent small businesses. And I encourage the member opposite to take some time to meet with me as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last September, the Prime Minister had an opportunity to say what he thought of small businesses, and I quote, "It has to be said that a large percentage of small businesses are a way for richer Canadians to reduce their taxes." Well, the least we can say is I don't know who was in front of him when he said that, but I don't think the mirror was too far away, because that's exactly what he did. Small business to save taxes. Will the Prime Minister do the only thing that's worthy is that he should stand and apologize to Canadians? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable colleague for his question, Mr. Speaker. I urge him. Order, please. We know what day of the week this is. We should not mock others. That is not appropriate. It's not adult. We should all behave like adults. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague. Perhaps rather than amuse himself, he should read the budget because, Mr. Speaker, we lowered taxes for the middle class and taxes on small business have also been reduced. As the Honourable Prime Minister said, and the Governor of the Bank of Canada said that the budget measures were going to lead to economic growth in the country. This is a budget for families, for the middle class. It's the right budget for Canada, and we'll continue to do exactly what we're doing. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, for us Conservatives, small businesses are the job creators, the wealth creators, not people who commit all kinds of fraud. The Prime Minister personally has 4 corporations to save taxes. He should stand up and apologize immediately. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague for his question once again. I may have to read the budget. He would understand that we're working for Canadians. He's trying to divert us here. What we present to Canadians is something that works for the middle class, for families, and for small business. The Governor of the Bank of Canada confirmed it this morning. We will continue to work for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, on April 24, 2013,
Over 1,100 textile workers, mostly women, died in the worst industrial accident in the history of Bangladesh. 3 years later, a lot remains to be done to protect workers. Kalpona Akhter, a courageous activist, he is here in Ottawa to ask Canada to do its part. What will the International Development Minister do so that Bangladeshi companies that benefit from duty waivers respect the rights of workers? The Parliamentary Secretary.
And I thank my colleague for his question, and I thank the individual for Bangladesh for being here and discussing this important issue with colleagues across the floor in this House, and to see what Canada can do to promote the human rights of people all across the world. And I thank them very much for this question. Thank you.
The honourable member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, the Azar children, who are my constituents, were abducted 8 months ago. These 4 Canadian children were taken to Kurdistan in the middle of a war zone, and they now may be in Iran. These children didn't choose this. We need urgent action. The Prime Minister has said the safe return of these children is a priority of this government. So has the Prime Minister made contact with Kurdish President Barjani or members of the Iranian government to help bring these children home?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Consular Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the honourable member for his question. The Government of Canada is very concerned about the well-being of the Azar children. We are engaged in this file. I have repeatedly met with Ms. Azar, and our law enforcement agency and our consular affairs are providing services to the family. We will continue to be engaged on this file. We will do everything we can to bring the Azar family back home to their mother.
Honourable member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Canadians I speak to are proud of our military history, a proud tradition of standing by our friends when called to do so. The Liberal budget is a deceitful betrayal to every Canadian who served past, present, or future in our Canadian history. The Liberal Defence Review is a shameful attempt at covering up the disdain they have for the military. Why are the Liberals turning their backs on our friends and on the women and men who protect us by serving in Canada's armed forces?
Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind the honourable member, as I did my critic some time ago, is the only cuts to the budget happened during the Conservative government with $3 billion. We have actually increased the planned spending, $360 million for the operational budget, plus $200 million for the military infrastructure as well. And the Defence Review is our way of actually committing to supporting our troops who serve us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has already paved the way to weaken our armed forces. He promised Canadians that he would replace our combat capacity by peacekeeping operations. He made a commitment to push back the acquisition of significant material until after the next election. He promised not to acquire the F-35, and he said he was going to implement the recommendations of the review report of 2011. So how can the government claim to want to have consultations on defence policy when it's already written by the Prime Minister?
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to making sure that our men and women have the capabilities for the missions of the future. The Defence Review is a wonderful process to allow all Canadians to have a voice in where their military needs to go. We are committed to replacing our fighters. We're committed to supporting our Navy and many other procurement projects. We're reprofiling the money so that we can have it at a time when the military needs to be able to write the checks for the procurement projects. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, in committee yesterday, we saw that the Liberals rather write things behind closed doors and be undisturbed. This is dangerous when we know their visceral hatred toward the Canadian Armed Forces. They're the ones who gave us leaky submarines and helicopters that can't take off. Can the Minister confirm that the National Defence Policy is not yet written and that all interested parties will be heard by the Standing Committee on National Defence?
Mr. Speaker, I find it very ironic just yesterday when we stood together, all members as a part of an important event, and how I stood up and said all members of this House who were standing there today, support the military. And to hear this in the House is actually quite insulting, to be honest. And so we know, and I've personally met with the members, so I don't think we need to kind of go down to this level and have this question. I'd be happy to actually meet with a member personally and explain in detail as I've opened up the department for briefings and meeting myself personally with them. And let's just stop this whole thing. I think every member in this House supports our military, and let's not play this ridiculous game.
The member for Mount Royal.
Mr. Speaker, recently a decision was announced to make significant investment in arts and culture, including fulfilling a commitment to doubling the budget of the Canada Council by 2020. Can the minister explain how this investment in the Canada Council on the Arts will benefit not only artists, but all Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my colleague for his important question. We will be investing $550 million in the Canada Council over 5 years, and this is a historic investment. Creative industries are an important element of our society and our economy, and our government was elected to stimulate economic growth. We have a duty to implement measures so that these industries can flourish and create a system for innovation. Arts and culture are at the heart of this ecosystem, and that's why we support our creative artists, and we are very proud of them.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have turned a blind eye to the unique needs and changing demographics of Canadian seniors. They have a Minister of Youth and a Minister for Families, but not a Minister for Seniors. To make matters worse, at committee, the Minister of Families admitted that the Liberals will not appoint a Minister for Seniors because that's only good for photo ops. Mr. Speaker, why isn't the Prime Minister taking the needs of seniors seriously?
Honourable Minister for Social Development. Thank you for the question, Mr. Speaker. I share with my colleague the importance of investing in the well-being of our seniors. I think this was demonstrated in the last budget. This government does make significant investments that will change the lives of our seniors, not just now. We will help 900,000 seniors with a significant increase to the GIS, but in the future as well by restoring the eligibility age for OAS to 65. The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, in the 2016 budget, the Liberals anticipated $6 million to protect Newfoundland waters from a shipwreck, but nothing for the Catherine Spirit, which has been in the waters of Lac Saint-Louis and Beauharnois since 2011. Citizens have been waiting 5 years for the federal government to protect their drinking water. According to the Working Committee, it would cost $10 to $15 million to dismantle this ship. Can the government make a commitment today to unblock funds quickly to dismantle the Catherine Spirit and assure the citizens of Beauharnois as it is done in Newfoundland?
The Minister of Fisheries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, forgive me and members if I feel nervous today. I've got some little eyes watching me today. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to assure the member, I have appointed a working group. They have met. The Coast Guard has presented options to them. They will be meeting again to come up with some options to be able to best deal with the situation once and for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Oakville North Burlington.
Mr. Speaker, our government has made an important commitment to investing in transportation and infrastructure. Providing Canadians with transportation choices is critical to ensuring we are moving people and goods safely and quickly. As a strong advocate for active transportation like cycling and walking, I know that investments in active transportation infrastructure are good for our economy, environment, and our health. Can the Minister of Infrastructure comment on how we are helping municipalities like Oakville and Burlington develop walking and cycling infrastructure?
Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague, the member for Oakville North Burlington, for her advocacy on issues of active transportation. Our government is proud to invest under $20 billion over the next 10 years, which will include public transit as well as active transportation. Active transportation can also be funded through the gas tax, and we will continue to work with our partners to discuss their priorities as we develop our long-term infrastructure plan. Thank you.
Honourable member for Richmond-Arthabasca. Mr. Speaker, when time comes to spend money or take part in funding activities, the government is quick on the trigger. When it comes to stopping pimping out young girls, that's another matter. We found out yesterday that the Minister of Justice is thinking of rewriting Bill C-452 on human trafficking, and yet this bill received approval from all political parties, the Senate, and the Prime Minister himself. So, Mr. Speaker, why does the Minister of Justice refuse to protect young victims today and hide behind the Canadian Charter of Rights? The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thank the member opposite for the question, and without question, our government takes human trafficking and the exploitation of women and girls incredibly seriously, and we are committed to strengthening the efforts to combat this problem. With respect to 452, I have had discussions, and there are concerns with respect to that particular piece of legislation in terms of the Charter, and we are working with our colleagues in the province of Quebec to ensure that we can continue to address this issue in a substantive way. This is a very serious issue that we are dealing with.
The Honourable Member for Saanich, Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Prime Minister. In light of a series of very controversial order in council appointments in the dying days of the previous government, will the Prime Minister join with political scientists such as Karl Barr and Peter Russell and accept as a constitutional convention that it is illegitimate for a government to make order in council appointments that will not take effect until after an election? Will he agree that this travesty is an overreach? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The facts are clear. The previous government made a series of appointments that took effect after the last election. These non-transparent 11th-hour appointments that were not scrutinised by Parliament were a clear abuse of the appointment process. We want to clean up the ethical mess left by the previous government. That is exactly what we are doing. We released a very important document called Open and Accountable Government. Canadians voted for transparency, and we are proud to have raised the bar.
Pursuant to order made on Monday, April 11, 2016, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the amendment of motion number 2 under Ways and Means proceedings. Calling the members. Right? The question is on the amendment. Mr. Monod, appuyé par Mr.
Monod, seconded by Mr. Leblanc, moved that this House approve in general the budgetary policy of the government. Ms. Ambrose, seconded by Ms. Raitt, moves the following amendment, that the motion be amended by deleting all the words after the word that and substituting the following.
Not approve the budgetary policy of the government as it A, includes deficit of at least $29.4 billion, B, contains wasteful spending, C, has no plan to balance the books, D, will fail to boost economic growth or create jobs, and E, betrays the middle class by raising taxes on families, individuals, and small businesses. All those in favor of the amendment will please rise.
Ms. Ambrose.
Ms. Ambrose.
Mr. Harper.
Mr. Harper.
Mr. Nicholson.
Mr. Nicholson.
Ms. Finley.
Ms. Finley.
Mr. Ritz.
Mr. Ritz.
Mrs. Block.
Mrs. Block.
Ms. Leach.
Ms. Leach.
Monsieur Blaney, Bellechasse, Lévis, Les Etchemins.
Monsieur Blaney, Bellechasse, Les